Hi, everyone. Welcome to this discussion about innovation in the on-demand economy. I'm Brad Stone, Senior Executive Editor for Global Technology at Bloomberg. Welcome to my panelists. Working clockwise, we have Christopher Payne, the President of DoorDash, Chris Rupp, Executive Vice President, Chief Digital and Customer Officer at the Albertsons Companies, and Sami Siddiqui, the Brand President of Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. Thank you to all of us for joining us today. Christopher, let's start with you. DoorDash has relationships with Albertsons and Popeyes. You know, I'm old enough to remember DoorDash circa 2013 when you guys were talking about helping small businesses get more efficient about delivery. And now here with RBI and Albertsons, two large, impressive companies. So what does this tell us about what DoorDash is trying to accomplish today?
Yeah, I think the last, 8-9 years now have been incredibly eventful. You're correct, Brad. Our vision is to help local economies, and our focus area is on helping local businesses thrive. And we're thrilled to be partnered with Safeway, Albertsons, and Popeyes. It's important to remember that while they are national companies, they also operate locally, right? And so over the last 8 years, we've built technology solutions to connect local businesses to local consumers and bring them what they want in minutes, not days or hours. And certainly, we're just at the very beginning of that technology evolution.
And Albertsons and the idea of delivering groceries is clearly a major expansion of DoorDash's ambition, and quite a crowded category, I might add.
Yeah, I would say that our vision is not restaurants, although we started with restaurants, which turns out to be, a very challenging, demanding scenario. But in the last 2 years, we've really gone beyond restaurants. We started with convenience and pulled that forward at the beginning of the pandemic, thinking it was going to be a life essential service. And then we have begun to go into grocery with our fantastic partnership with Safeway, Albertsons. And I think we've got a tremendous opportunity to bring people everything that they want. And we're seeing that emerge over time. Once people sort of realize that they can get products in minutes, they change their habits, right? So you can go from, maybe I don't need a week's worth of grocery. Maybe I can get a grocery order in 20 minutes and make dinner tonight. And it creates a different occasion that may not have existed in the past, really focused on convenience.
Chris Rupp, I'm so delighted to have you here on the panel. Some people may not know this, but Chris was one of the originators of Prime Day back in an earlier incarnation of her career at Amazon. Chris, you joined Albertsons, I think, at the end of 2019. So this question might kind of call on knowledge before your tenure, but what was Albertsons' journey to working with DoorDash? Because I recall, at one point, Safeway trucks patrolling my neighborhood in San Francisco. Like, you guys at one point wanted to control that last mile, and now you're doing deals with the likes of DoorDash. So what does it bring you?
Well, I think you should think of us as growing in terms of our expansiveness of thinking about the grocery category. We're going to meet customers in a lot of different channels. There are going to be customers who come directly to our website, our own app, our own stores. There are customers now that are looking across the internet for places to shop, and we want to be everywhere a customer looks for groceries. And we have a strong partnership with DoorDash, offering groceries in now hundreds of our markets, and we're delighted to be reaching many new customers this way.
But Chris, so I want to kind of understand the exclusivity or the lack thereof nature of these deals. So Albertsons also deals with Instacart and other on-demand delivery companies. Like, how do you view the relationship with DoorDash, if you do, as special or unique?
We actually are looking to be, again, expansive in our thinking. We have a relationship with Instacart and DoorDash and several others. But the point is that we think we're reaching different customers in each of these different channels or places. And that's why I say we're just thinking very expansively about reaching new customers. This partnership,
and to be clear,
DoorDash, this partnership with DoorDash is unique in many ways. For example, the Double Dash, where customers can order from both Albertsons and another store, whether it's a drugstore for convenience items or perhaps other things. Those are the interesting and unique things that we can do in our partnership with DoorDash.
Now, Sami, you're here as a veteran of the sandwich chicken war, the chicken sandwich wars. You know, you look good for participating in such an intense battle. But tell me what role delivery has in the chicken wars. How important is it to Popeye's business right now?
Yeah, it's a great question, and thanks for having me. I think delivery has been a critical part of our business and part of the chicken wars as well over the last 2 years. We launched the chicken sandwich back in late 2019 to a lot of fanfare, as everyone knows. As people said, we broke the internet for a little while. And when COVID hit, the success of the chicken sandwich, it really just accelerated through delivery. Even though we were at limited service modes in our restaurants, delivery exploded for our business and really took that success and just kind of bolstered it. And I think delivery has been critical to, you know, very similar to how Chris was describing, is we are all about expanding convenience, being wherever our guests are, and delivery kind of bridges that convenience gap for us in so many ways.
Okay, and so for Popeyes, that means DoorDash, that means Uber Eats, that means your own app. Is that right?
Look, absolutely. Look, we've worked with DoorDash for a number of years now. DoorDash actually powers our own app. So when you fire up the Popeyes app, DoorDash is actually fulfilling those orders for us. So we work in a variety of ways with DoorDash. But I think ultimately, really, as Chris was saying, is we need to be everywhere our guests are. And ultimately, I think that's important, because as we actually go out, we do a lot of research with our guests. And consistently, the number one barrier to consideration of Popeyes is most guests don't have a Popeyes near them. They often say, well, I would love to have Popeyes, I'd love to try Popeyes, but I don't see them around me. And delivery actually makes Popeyes be that much closer to our guest at that last mile.
Okay, excuse the pun, but the meat of this discussion is about innovation in the on-demand economy. So we're going to hit on a number of issues, a number of kind of trends. And the first one, and the one frankly as a consumer that I care the most about, and Sami, we'll start with you, is just kind of freshness in delivery. Like too often, the chicken sandwich appears in a soggy bag, and what makes it special in the restaurant has maybe evaporated during delivery. So Sami, maybe, and Christopher, then what are you guys doing to ensure that restaurant food, that the chicken sandwich is delivered, it maintains its specialness in what might be a prolonged delivery?
Well, Brad, first off, I'll give you my phone number after this. If you have a soggy chicken sandwich, you call me directly about that.
I can call. Fantastic.
That's not the experience we want to deliver. And it's a great question. I think, at Popeyes, as many other restaurant concepts, we're always talking about how do we elevate the guest experience. And historically, that guest experience was all about traditional sort of in-restaurant dining, drive-throughs. And then all of a sudden, when the pandemic hit, at the onset of the pandemic, delivery, it was a small sort of piece of our business, but it really accelerated that channel for us. And I think a lot of restaurant concepts had to move very quickly in evolving operations to ensure that delivery experience is equally as good, if not better, than that kind of traditional or analog experience. And I think for us, what did that mean? I think a couple things. I think number one is, with delivery, we're actually one step removed from the guest or the customer. And so actually, going back to DoorDash, the Dasher is actually our customer. And we need to, in our restaurants, we treat the Dasher like our customer. I'll give you a great example. I was working a restaurant in New Orleans a couple weeks ago, and I saw a Dasher waiting to pick up an order, and we were taking a little bit longer than normal. And, I offered the Dasher a drink, offered her a free cookie. And I think things like that, exactly the same sort of thing we would do with a guest, we've started to do with our Dashers. And then I think there's sort of other innovations outside of kind of that experience piece. But number one, you actually asked about the sandwich. One of the really great things with the chicken sandwiches is we had new packaging. And it was an insulated foil packaging that actually helps the hold times. And we're going to continue to evolve packaging and do other things to ensure that delivery experience is as good or better than kind of the experience you get in our restaurants.
Christopher, anything sitting in DoorDash's secret labs that's going to help deliver food hot?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing to know, Brad, is that the core of the DoorDash system is a technology platform, right? So it's actually really hard to know like when exactly the chicken sandwich is going to be ready, when the deep dish pizza is going to be ready. And so one of the things that we work on with our partners is trying to make sure that we get the Dasher there at exactly the right moment. One feature that we built with Popeyes and many others is called auto order release. So literally as the Dasher approaches the restaurant, we know how long it takes Popeyes to make the actual chicken sandwich. And so literally as the Dasher's driving in, we then fire the order so that the food is ready, hot and fresh, and literally handed off to the Dasher. And so you need rich coordination, rich data analysis, rich systems in order to deliver quality. You know, DoorDash is the market leader in restaurant and delivery. We have about 55% market share, and it's on the backs of improved quality, relentlessly focusing on the guest in our partnership with our merchants. But to your point, it's just beginning. Chris Rupp alluded to our Double Dash capability. This is the ability to order your Popeyes chicken sandwich, and then if you need the milk and the NyQuil or other things from Safeway Albertsons, you can get them brought to you in one single order. This will actually transform the opportunity for the consumer to get more and more over time. Really challenging from a technological perspective to make that work with super high quality. As an example, in that case, we'll go pick up the milk and the NyQuil first. We'll then fire the order to Popeyes. We'll then pick it up so it's hot and fresh and minimize the transit time from the restaurant to the consumer.
Well, Chris Rupp, let me ask you, one thing that's often discussed when talking about minimizing that transit time is the idea of a dark store, a ghost kitchen, a dark supermarket, the idea of maybe a supermarket that's just for on-demand delivery, closer to customers, closer to urban areas. You can't walk in; it's just for on-demand. What's your thinking about that? I know Instacart has talked a little bit about that. Does Albertsons have a plan? Do you think it has a role as on-demand delivery, becomes more popular?
Well, I'll say one of the greatest things about our partnership with DoorDash is that the assets we bring to the relationship are that our stores are nested in neighborhoods surrounded by grocery shoppers. And so we've already got proximity to the customer to allow for really fast deliveries. But in addition to that, we are looking at ways we can work together so that the Dashers can get in and out of the store really quickly. Things like, we are trying to put things in the back room in a ware room concept with all the most popular items put together so the Dasher can get in and out quickly. And, we'll continue to work with DoorDash to innovate on those types of things to allow our orders to get filled faster.
Okay, but let me try to interpret that, Chris. Is that to say that you maybe don't see a role for a completely dark supermarket, a Safeway or an Albertsons that's really, a warehouse with no signs that's just there for Dashers?
Well, so far
would that be efficient use of real estate?
So far, we've looked at that concept and thought we have 2,400 fantastic stores in the country. Why don't we focus on using the stores we've got in the neighborhoods close to customers? And we haven't looked to the dark store concept yet, but we're open to anything that helps us continue down the path of innovation.
Christopher and then Sami, I'd love to hear what you think about this. Some of these quick commerce models like GoPuff and other startups are talking about using dark stores, dark kitchens to fulfill fast delivery. Do you guys see roles for that concept?
Absolutely. I think one thing I would say, Brad, is I don't think of them as dark stores any longer. Like the truth is, if you're going to put a store or a restaurant next to consumers, you're going to want to offer choice for the customer. If they want to come pick up the order, they should be able to do that. If you want to deliver the order faster because you're closer to the customer, you should be able to do that as well. I think the way we should think of it as an industry is expansion. It's actually putting the product closer to the customer and having them sort of have a better experience. And so we're excited. You alluded to a few things. One is, I'll talk about restaurants first, right? So one of the things that emerged during the pandemic was a lot of restaurateurs, their restaurants across the United States began to offer virtual menus, literally new cuisine types within their stores. You can imagine if you're a dinner-only restaurant and you're your burners are sitting idle during lunchtime. You're like, well, we're really good at preparing food. Why don't we make something during lunchtime and expand our business opportunity? And so a lot of times people talk about dark stores as building new things, but it's also about leveraging existing infrastructure and creating growth opportunities for existing restaurants. And so I think a lot has been made of the new construction. I think utilization of existing restaurateur space is critical. And last week you may have seen we announced our first ultra fast expansion of Dash Mart into Manhattan. Super excited about this. This is offering 10 to 15-minute grocery delivery to people in Chelsea, in Manhattan. And I'm super excited about this because when you can get something in 10 to 15 minutes, it is a complete game changer. I remember back when I was at Amazon during the early days and we were celebrating, I think it was 5 to 7 days or something like that. And consumers were excited. And somebody said, no one's ever going to want more than that, right? And it's sort of laughable to an extreme now. Now we're talking 10 to 15-minute deliveries. The only way you do that is you can get closer to customers, right? And in the case of Manhattan, there might need to be building new capabilities, new dark stores. In the case of Safeway Albertsons, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to do that because the grocery stores are already next to the customer. And so I think it is an exciting technological evolution that means more and more expansion opportunity for merchants and more convenience for customers.
Well, let me just ask you a quick follow-up, Christopher, and then Sami, we'll get to you. What we've seen over the past 20 years are these increased delivery promises. They create new expectations for customers, a great customer experience, but sometimes a kind of destructive professional lifestyle for the people that have to go carry it out. When you think about 10 to 15-minute delivery, it's kind of breathtaking. How do you do that maybe in a conscientious manner where you're not putting undue pressure on your Dashers, on your workforce?
Yeah, this is something that we're taking incredibly seriously. And one of the key ways you do this, right, this is one of the reasons we're testing our way in and starting with one facility is, number one, you have to be able to pick the groceries in literally seconds, which is, kind of crazy, right? But then the idea is you configure the store in a certain way. This is an opportunity over time for robotics to make it incredibly quick to pick the groceries. The second thing you do is that you make the radius, the delivery service area, if you will, around the facility incredibly restrictive, right? And so you're then, the Dashers then over time know this area super well. You're talking about, literally blocks in Chelsea, and they have ample time to get there. Safety is the top concern, so if conditions warrant, we'll back away from the 10 to 15-minute SLA. But so far in our experience, the bigger challenge isn't the transit time because I can control that with distance. It's actually being able to pick the groceries at the speed that's required to deliver the 10 to 15-minute promise.
Thank you. Sami, I want to ask you about ghost kitchens and rapid delivery, the GoPuffs of the world. Does Popeyes or does Restaurant Brands International see a role for that in the on-demand ecosystem?
Yeah, look, I think we see a role for testing everything, right? And ultimately, we are testing ghost kitchens right now, and we're testing a lot of other technologies that I think it goes back to, I think both Christopher and Chris have said it, is convenience. And I think in this new sort of economy and what we've seen technologically is we need to be able to get our food, in the same quality that we always talk about, but we need to get it to our guests faster. And I think, I liken ghost kitchens very similar to what we've done in the restaurant industry with formats. And, historically, a decade ago, whenever you're talking about building a new restaurant, it was always about, okay, we're going to have a drive-through and we're going to have 75 seats and it's going to be a 2,500 square foot building. We've sort of evolved that thinking in the restaurant industry, and it's become, we need to put the right format in the right trade area, and we need to have a diversity of formats so we can serve the guests better. So I think ghost kitchens have a role. I think drive-through restaurants have a role, and I think all of it is about serving the guest, because ultimately the guest wants to know that they can get their Popeyes whenever and wherever they want it.
Can you tell us more about where you're trialing ghost kitchens? I can't imagine a kind of Popeyes ghost kitchen where the chicken aroma is wafting over the sidewalk, and yet people cannot actually walk in. They can just deliver, they can just order it online.
Yeah, we're testing ghost kitchens actually all over the U.S. And in my prior role, I was actually leading our business in Asia. And I can tell you, in Shanghai, I was there when we launched ghost kitchens there and several other countries. And I think it is the success of the ghost kitchen is very dependent on the trade area. What is the population density? What's the ability for people like Dashers to actually access the location and get in and out quickly. And in a lot of cases, actually, in these ghost kitchens, there's a whole hybrid model. There's a walk-up model. You can actually walk up to the ghost kitchen and place your order, or in some cases, they're totally dark. And so going back to kind of what I was saying earlier is, I think what we're seeing is really cool in the restaurant industry is that we're seeing a diversity of formats, a big flexibility with what a restaurant looks like in order to serve its guests. And I think the innovation is really good for the industry, and it's good for the guest.
Chris, Rupp, we're probably seeing more innovation inside supermarkets than we have in the last 50 years in terms of checkout carts, self-checkout, the visual recognition systems like the Amazon Go store. What are you guys looking at? What can accelerate the checkout process for on-demand delivery?
We've also been spending a lot of time understanding how we can get customers in and out of our store much faster. We know that's a demand from busy families. And so we've invested a lot of money in converting the front end of the store to more self-checkout opportunities. And we've got a few more ideas that we're testing. We're not ready to announce yet, but we are working hard to innovate in this space so that customers don't have to spend a lot of time on activities like checkout.
And now in this technological arms race, Albertsons is arguably at a disadvantage because you've got competitors like your former employer, Amazon. So who are your partners as you go to kind of build the next generation of supermarket?
I think what's wonderful is that there's innovation taking place across the industry and so many great startups and actually at scale partners for us. We've announced great partnerships with companies like Google and Adobe, and we've got more to come, but we want to rely on the very best in technology, and some of that we're building internally, some of that we're procuring from others, and some of that is in partnerships like that with DoorDash.
Well, Christopher, we've only got a couple minutes left. You mentioned robotics. There was an idea at one point, kind of fashionable, that a robot would be rolling gently down our sidewalks, delivering our Popeyes chicken sandwiches and other meals. At what point does that become real? Do robots play a role in the on-demand delivery economy?
Yeah, I think it's going to be much more gradual than perhaps the hype. The yarn that we overestimate in the short term and underestimate in the long term, I think is very applicable here. Last month, we announced our formation of our DoorDash Labs, where we've been working on various forms of robotics, and we've actually been doing that since 2018. Our hypothesis is that we're going to be able to build complementary systems, and so I think the concept that the robot is going to replace the system and replace the driver, I don't think that'll happen for many years to come. I live in an apartment building. There's no robot going to be knocking on my door anytime soon. But I do think we can build robotics into the system that will complement. We bought a company called Chowbotics a couple of years ago now, and this is a robot that actually dispenses, if you will, fresh food, and it's essentially a form of a kitchen being brought to people in college campuses, in dorms, where you can bring food into those. Is that robotics? Absolutely. Is it complementary to the core system? Absolutely. I think that you'll see robotics introduced over the coming years as a complement to the system to drive improved efficiency and speed and expansion.
Okay, but the idea that an autonomous car might drive our meal and then a robot would bring it up to the doorstep, you think that's been a little overhyped?
I do. And it's kind of funny. I've been in tech for a long time, Brad, and normally I'm on the forefront of saying, things are coming faster. I think that we've got many solutions to deal with the last 10 feet and the first 10 feet. And that's what our Dasher network is incredibly good at. I think it'll be more of a complement as opposed to a replacement. And I think that is the hype that has been perhaps too focused on in recent years.